All-star closer Kenley Jansen, we have a question.
What's the best podcast of all time? Baseball isn't boring, baby.
I'm Rob Bradford, and every single day I'm sitting down with the biggest names to show you this great game is the greatest game. It's my podcast. It's my passion. It's a cause I started more than 2 years ago and is now the most prolific national daily baseball pod there is. Another fact. So jump aboard the BIB Express. Follow and listen to Baseball Isn't Boring, presented by Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
We are kicking off the show with one of the most recognizable names on the 49ers beat. He covers the team for the Bay Area News Group, and he's the author of the upcoming book, The Franchise, San Francisco 49ers, A Curated History of the Faithful, that will release September 24th. He is Cam Inman. Cam, thanks for stopping by. It's great to have you back on, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's actually, the book's retitled The Brandon Aiyuk Off-Season Negotiation. There's endless chapters to the book, so it's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, it's just all behind the scenes on Aiyuk now, right? Just pivot on a dime.
Honestly, I did cross paths with Brandon Aiyuk yesterday inside Levi's Stadium. So I don't have a salacious quote to share other than I'll put it this way, that he seems as anxious and flustered to get a deal done as he did like 2 days after the Super Bowl when he was clutching that football at his locker and just kind of, let's get going. Let's get this over with already. So whichever way you want to understand where he wants to get it going is up to you. On whatever day, whatever team. So,
well, we're definitely going to get into that probably ad nauseum. But before we do, I did want to ask you about the book. Can you tell us what it's all about and how the idea came together for you?
Yeah. So let me see if it's over this shoulder here. It's got this a little gold jacket there, kind of like it's like a gold jacket. It's a Hall of Fame book.
There you go.
So it's I worked on it all throughout last season, and which allowed me some room to write about last season, because last season was pretty darn good, and they made it to the Super Bowl. And it was funny, when we got back to the media hotel in Vegas, one of the writers from Boston looks at me, he's like, oh, there goes your book. I go, no, book's already good. Book's good to go, because what it is, this is going to be my 25th season covering the Niners.
Wow.
And so what this book allowed me to do is kind of share everything I've learned about the franchise and what I think 49er fans would want to know about them, and maybe some new stuff that they don't know, because I kind of was able to go back in the vault and pull up some old one-on-one interviews with guys, whether it was Walsh or Montana, Young, Jerry. Actually, Jerry was one of the newer interviews. I interviewed Jerry last year for his chapter. And I tried to find something that made me curious and entertaining, where I thought readers would, that's how I write too. If I'm writing about something boring, it's going to come across really boring when you read it. So like Jerry's, for instance, I'm like, I got him after he was running around on the field, getting all hyped up pregame. And I said, all right, your chapter, I want to focus on, obviously, you have the touchdown record. Name me the number one touchdown and explain it why. So I got Jerry in a good mood. So it was actually a good chapter. I think there's about 40, almost 49 chapters maybe in this book. So we cover the quarterbacks. We cover the legends like Eddie D, Ronnie Lott, Jerry Rice, Walsh, all this. And then we get to, like, I think, how many coaches have I covered? Well, I think I wrote chapters on about 10 coaches, and there's anecdotes, some angle on each coach, which is unique. And then I get into like their best draft picks, best free agents, best trades, their stadiums, and we cover all of it. But the, I guess kind of the cool thing also was I got Frank Gore and George Kittle to do separate forwards for me. And they're
awesome.
They're very heartfelt about what the franchise means to those guys. And to me, I've covered a lot of guys, and those two define the professionalism and the love of football and the love of the Niners, where I think it transcends, where if you love the Niners, you're going to love the book. You're going to love what they say.
That's awesome. I'm looking through the table of contents you sent me, and it's literally every chapter is. So you have chapters on 10 quarterbacks. Montana has a chapter, Young has a chapter, and so on. In the coaches, not only do you have Seifert and Mooch and Shanahan, you got a Tom Sula chapter in there. You got a Chip Kelly chapter in there. So you're covering everything for the last 25 years of this book.
Yeah, I think the Dennis Erickson chapter has like the only expletive in the book. So that's another one. It makes it PG-13. So.
I love it.
There were a lot of expletives for me at that time frame too. So.
Man, 49 chapters in a book about the 49ers is some synergy right there, Cam. I love that. That's fantastic.
Yeah, if it's not 49, then we're going to create like maybe the acknowledgement page is an extra chapter, the sources page, the table of contents is a chapter. Yeah, that's
49ers web zone page, right? We've been around for a while.
We go.
Pop
there
one
you go.
there.
Yeah, you guys get it. Yeah.
Well, we mentioned it at the top, and again, it's been the biggest news in 49er land pretty much all off season, but rumors are continuing to circulate about Brandon Aiyuk right now, and whether his days are numbered with the team. It certainly seemed like a trade was out of the question once the draft passed.
Right.
It no longer seems like maybe it's out of the question. What's your sense of where things are right now? And do you think a trade is a real possibility? And if so, what would be your expectation in terms of what the 49ers are getting back for Brandon Aiyuk?
I may be wrong in all this, but I just don't see him getting traded. I think this is the same situation as it was back in May after the draft. Like, what has changed? They haven't gotten a deal, so that hasn't changed. He wants to get paid. He has, from my understanding, he has an idea what his value is in the NFL. Okay. The Niners have their own version of what his value is to their team.
Correct.
And they don't match up, obviously, because the Niners have value across the board in a lot of spots. And to me, it's like, yes, deals get done at the deadline. Nick Bosa's got done in week 1, right? It's just like, wow, they're really pushing it that far. But it doesn't seem contentious. It's, we've seen some weird stuff with this team and their business negotiations. We've seen weird training camps. Jimmy Garoppolo 3 years ago on a side field. I mean, what the heck is going on, right? Well, they were doing business behind the scenes, right? And nobody was trading for Jimmy. He had to get healthy. And then that worked out in the Niners' favor and eventually in Jimmy's favor. So I don't think they're at a point of no return here. To me, it's like, yeah, this is part of negotiations, right? Like, trade rumors start going. I'm sorry, like right now, it's like, what, is he going to Pittsburgh? Well, that was the March. Wasn't that March and April's trade rumor? And then he's going to Washington in July because of Jaden Daniels. And okay, now we're in August, and now it's going to be Cleveland because people were in Ohio for the Hall of Fame. Good job, Patrick Willis. But it's like, what are you going to get in return? That's there you go, 52, right? There you go. He had a good speech too. I thought it was dead on. By the way, it's kind of weird. Like, I'm going to go off track here for a minute, but
it's all good.
So anytime a Niner goes in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, I really think everybody on that franchise needs to stop and pay homage, watch what's going on in the speech. And so, I mean, obviously it's camp. You got practice going on. I'm watching the induction ceremony while practice is going on my phone because I wanted to see when Patrick's turn is coming up. The practice ends, and about 5-10 minutes later, we're in the auditorium. That's when Patrick's speech started. And I just kind of wish like the Niners had postponed the media stuff and had the whole team in the auditorium to watch one of football's all-time greats speak about what football means to him and everything. And I'm just hoping that at some point they showed that speech because obviously John Lynch understands the ramifications of it as a Hall of Famer. And when you're in Canton for a Hall of Fame ceremony, there's nothing like it. I mean, it's really, you grasp what an exclusive club it is. So anyhow, so good job to Patrick. And sorry for going off the rails there, but I just think, what is the ultimate deadline here with Brandon Aiyuk? And it's not going to be a preseason week 1 game, is it? I mean, you don't need him for this game.
Right.
Your roster is not going to get reshaped in week 1 or 2 or 3. To me, it's at the end of the month. And the fact that he is at the facility, going to some meetings, he is working out behind the scenes. He's not like, remember Debo had his hold in 2 years ago. Debo was running down the sidelines, right? Like showing the fans that he's around. And Ayuk's there, but he's not working out in front of everybody. He's working out behind the scenes, smiling, engaging with Shanahan and Lynch. Looks authentic. And he doesn't seem disgruntled. So I just see something will work out. If he gets traded, fine. But it's like, how many times do we go over like make-believe trades and they never come to fruition? I think the only one, and I never bought into it, was that they were going to trade for Christian McCaffrey. Because I just said they don't value running backs like that. It would be freaking great if they did. They should have drafted him number 2 overall because he's perfect for this offense. They didn't. They come around and they get him. Worked out great. But so many times we just throw out names, right? Amari Cooper, that'll work. It's like, He's 30 years old. I mean, it's your 1-year rental. Like, how does that really help your team? Like, what are they going to give you? I mean, the Browns I mean, if I'm the Niners, I go, give me a defensive end because I want more defensive linemen so I don't have to trade for him in October, right? I mean, I've been watching training camp practice. The defensive line is deep at defensive tackle, defensive end. You got Bosa, great. Leonard Floyd, great. Yetur Gross-Matos, I like him a lot. He's going to be good. Robert Beal, who knows? After that, okay. You're telling me that's going to get you through 21 games, 20 games? They got to get more defensive end depth. But the Cleveland Browns aren't going to give you Myles Garrett. And who's their other one? Zadarius Smith, I think. He just went off with a knee injury today. So they're like in dire straits there. They may need to use whatever capital they have to go get a defensive end rather than another wide receiver. So it's like the NFL evolves throughout the preseason, and so do the Brandon Aiyuk negotiations.
Yeah, it's just I kind of feel like he's backed himself into a corner a little bit here because he puts the trade request in, and I don't think he wants to leave.
No, I don't think so either. I think he just wants to.
Yeah, he wants to get paid more, but the Niners are kind of saying, listen, like, we don't use you like in Amon-Ra St. Brown. You don't get that many targets. So, like, this is what you have. And this, I keep saying this has felt a little bit more like Buckner to me because with Bosa, Kittle, Warner, those guys
I see
are top
that.
1, 2.
I can see that. Yeah.
But so I do wonder.
Yeah.
As I say, I think too, I think ultimately he wants to be here, but I don't know, man. There's just so much smoke there for me right now that I just kind of wonder. I mean, you know better than I do, but you just kind of wonder which way this is going to go. What do you guys say? What do you guys talk when you talk to the beat writers? Like, what's the consensus? Do you guys think he's going to stay? You think he's going to go?
I think honestly, I think most everybody at 49 thinks he's staying.
That's really interesting.
I'll say the person who's been most skeptical throughout the offseason is Brandon Aiyuk. And I had never seen a scene of locker cleanout day where a guy seemed that distraught with not knowing where he was going in his future. Like, wow. If they had told him back then that I'm freaking out, we're not keeping you, it would have been done. It would have been done in April. They wouldn't drag this on throughout the offseason, like going, hey, maybe we can strike a deal in camp. It doesn't behoove them to do that right now. If CeeDee Lamb, the best wide receiver out there, that like CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, they're still looking to get paid, right? So it's like every time there's these contracts, it's your measuring stick against the next guy. There's still 2 more to go before Ayuk's last man standing, right?
Yeah.
Again, so that's not the end all. And it's like the Cowboys aren't going to swap receivers with CeeDee Lamb and Aiyuk. That'd be incredible, right? Hey, they did Trey Lance a couple years ago. We're going to do this. we're a trading partner. Steve Young may hate it, but we're going to, no, I don't see that happening. And then if you're Brandon Aiyuk going, well, where do I go? Is it just going for the money? I've been to a Super Bowl. I've done this. I want to be the guy. Is New England going to be it? He knows Kendrick Bourne was in New England the last couple of years, so he can probably find out how in shambles that franchise seems to be. That probably can't be that appealing. The Browns can't be. The Browns look like they're always on the come, and it just never comes to fruition. I don't know what Deshaun Watson is really like, so that would give me hesitation. And then where else? Pittsburgh. Who's your quarterback? Russell Wilson. You want to team with Russ and Tomlin? Maybe, but they got nothing to send back to the Niners, and that's what it's all about. If the Niners do not have to do anything. But here's what I'll say, just kind of to exhaust this, is whatever happens, I think it will be fair on both sides. I don't think the Niners would make him play under a $14 million salary this year. They could force him to. I don't see Brandon Aiyuk holding out and not playing and showing up for the last 6 games of the season so he can become a vested guy. He could do something like that and really take this all the way. I think the guy loves football too much to sit that out. So I think right now everybody's throwing as much out there as they can to try to get something done. And I think ultimately he stays, he plays. Do they change that contract to sweeten it up and say, all right, we'll readdress it in a year. We're going to pay you 20-something million this year. We'll franchise you probably next year and trade you though. So we retain your rights. So, we're not going to give up that. And then we revisit it after the season. To me, that would kind of amend things. But again, I'm not them and I'm not Brandon Aiyuk. And a lot of people love to speculate about exactly what he wants and what the Niners want. We just don't know.
I mean, I know you just said no one knows, but do you get the sense that the holdup is average annual value or guaranteed money? Or do you think it's probably both?
It's probably both, because I think it's got to be financial, right? Because obviously he likes it here, right? His mom grew up a big Niner fan. They're like, I think the family enjoys being here. but you're not going to give a hometown discount because of that. Not on your second contract, right? You do that on your third. So I think that's why it's financially driven more than I don't like it here. I need a fresh start. He doesn't need a fresh start. He got a fresh start in 2021 when he got out of that doghouse and became an NFL wide receiver.
Yeah.
And I mean, he is a top-notch wide receiver. He has had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. And only 2 other wide receivers in Niner history have had 3 years in a row of 1,000-yard seasons. So I'd expect him to be going for that this year.
Trent Williams is the other big name, and it seems like that's almost gone under the radar, which is insane. But when I heard he was holding out, I said, okay, this is kind of a Christian McCaffrey thing. He's going to get a pay raise this year. He'll get guaranteed money next year. And then you put a couple of dummy team option years on the contract and you're good to go. But now this is kind of lingering too. Are you surprised it's gone as far as it is? And do you see a resolution coming for Trent Williams?
I was surprised, I guess, initially that he didn't report. And then when you put some thought into it and say he has no guaranteed money and he's now with the number 6 paid tackle on an annual basis. Well, remember how hyper aware Trent was 3 years ago? And he said, you need to pay me an extra $10,000 a year.
23.01.
Bakhtiari. It was so cute. It was like,
23.01.
Yeah, you got to do that, right? So the dude knows like that. And he also does not need training camp. He's been in this system for like 15 freaking years. Why would he want to come and McCaffrey's a different beast. McCaffrey loves to work out, loves to be on that field. He needs to feel those hits, get those legs used to it, right? But he's not being used every day. It's load maintenance with him. Whereas Trent Williams, the guy's an athletic marvel. Get him in by the end of the month. Give him at least a week, 2 weeks, hopefully, to ramp up and get his football body going, and then off you go. And it's like I don't think he's missing much. What I think it hurts is the offensive continuity right now because things are shaky. Where Brock is behind some guys, where it makes Brock I don't want to say on the run as much, but it's just there's not as much. I mean, he has command of the offense. It's just not being as efficient as you'd expect, maybe. Because
and the run game's been pretty.
You're not throwing
bad
to
too,
Debo.
right?
I mean, you're not throwing to Aiyuk. You're not throwing to McCaffrey some days. And you have a lot of different linemen in there. So,
and the run game has been kind of not great during camp as well, from reports that I see from others that especially running to the left side because Jalen Moore is a good pass protector, but even Furster said, Moore's issue is in the run game. That's where he needs to grow.
Yeah. The one thing I say about that is the running backs were really hard to gauge until you get the pads on, right? And so there's only been 6 practices and pads. Oh, actually 5. I think 5. And you're not allowed to do live tackling. So a lot of this is kind of speculation on, was that guy going to get through the hole? Yeah. What's going on? So preseason will give you a better estimation on how good a Cody Schrader is, whether Jordan Mason really has taken the steps that everybody wants to herald him as he's ready to go now. Is Elijah Mitchell healthy and going to go into the season as the number 2 back? Those are the questions I think you can filter out through the preseason, because if I see Christian McCaffrey on that field, I'll go down from the press box and pull him out again.
Yeah. Speaking of, they play real football this week. It's if you're a 49ers fan, you get to see your team put on the red and gold and play another team, not just themselves. Obviously without Aiyuk, there's been a lot of focus on the wide receiver group. Jacob Cowing's been out with an injury, but Ricky Pearsall was injured early, but has been in. How has he looked to you? And are there any other wide receivers that have stood out so far in camp? I
just love the daily reports people have on the wide receivers. Like, oh, this guy's terrible. Oh, this guy's great. This guy's terrible. And Brock Purdy's terrible. Brock Purdy, it's all very fluid. I will say that Pearsall's looked good. He's looked good. He looks like he's going to be ready to go as a rookie. He doesn't line up in the wrong spots. Like sometimes you'll see guys come in, and, oh, I didn't know that or something, and the quarterbacks will get pissed. A lot of guys speak highly of him, right? Whether it's coaches, quarterbacks, defensive backs. So you get the praise, but a lot of times when we ask these guys questions, it's like we're asking for letters of recommendation, and everybody's going to say how great they are because they're professional athletes and they're supposed to be great. Everything I see, he is going to be a bona fide player. He had a catch on the sideline a couple of days ago, and D. Winters was all over him. And D. Winters was breaking up the pass, and Pearsall stayed focused on it, pulled it down one-handed and then kept his feet in bounds. He's right on the sideline. It's phenomenal. And just that concentration and the contact was really good to see, because you don't get that in spring where you're not allowed to hit guys. So that was huge. I mean, Debo practiced a lot, and he was going full tilt before he got the vet day yesterday. And they throw the ball to him a lot. He probably gets more incompletions per target than anybody on the team because they're always trying to get some chemistry going. And Purdy and him have connected on a couple of deep shots, which seem to be rare. So that was good to see. Juan Jennings. He's a beast. Throw it up high. He'll outmuscle a guy for it. I would say the other, Trent Taylor, he's in a really interesting spot because he knows this offense really well. He's the number one punt returner, I think, without question right now, because he looks the most comfortable doing it. The other option is Ricky Pearsall, which I think Ricky could do it, but I don't know how confident that's going to be a baptism coming into the NFL and doing that right away. I mean, flashback to Jared Hayne in 2015, right, where they tried to stick anybody in there as a punt returner. It's a really hard job. Trent Taylor's done it a lot, so you can trust him doing that, and you know what he's doing on the field. And he makes some incredible catches using all that little smaller body can do. Ronnie Bell's an interesting one because some days he'll look good, some days he'll look really bad, and I just don't know. I did a 53-man roster projection for tomorrow's online at mercurynews.com, and there's some guys where I'm like, do I keep Ronnie Bell, Chris Conley? What about Cowing? Because he hasn't practiced because he has this hamstring. But as a rookie, you got to be really show that you are really hurt or you're really not ready for the NFL to not make the opening day roster. And Cam Latu was not ready last year, and he got hurt, so he did not make the roster. Which puts, I think, Cowing, just judging from him running on the side, it looks like he's going to get ready to go. So I would imagine that next week in the joint practices down in Irvine, you're going to see a really good. He better be going, and then because you got to make the club by being out there, and so that'll be fun to watch. And that's also the same thing with Isaac Guerrero, because he pulls his hamstring on day one.
Right.
Isaac Guerrero feels like a Cam Latu of this year.
Possibly, but here's the difference. The NFL this year has changed roster rules where you're allowed to have two guys go on IR and bring them off of it before you get to the 53-man cut. So essentially, you can have a 55-man roster and have two on IR, from what I understand of the rules. And so I think on my 53-man, that's how I snuck Guerrero through. Is if this hamstring's that bad, right? We're 2 weeks into camp, they're not going to rush him back just so they can see him if he makes the team. And then they're not going to need him right away if you've got, Mitchell and Mason backing up McCaffrey like you did in the past. And then if you're really in dire straits, you could go with Cody Schrader because he's really trying hard to make the team. He's a much smaller guy, but he runs hard. But you have your three main dogs back from last year. So I don't know why you'd have to make a change.